Thank you very much. My name is Mithika Mwenda, the Executive Director of the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, PACJA. So the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance is a consortium of diverse organizations bringing together civil society organizations, NGOs, smallholder farmer groups, women organizations, CBOs, faith-based, indigenous communities, grassroots communities, so from 52 African countries. And actually what we are doing now is to ensure that we strengthen ourselves at national level, because we believe that is what their change is required. So we have designated national platforms which brings together our 1,500 members in each country, so that they define their agenda based on our strategy, but also based on their national context, because each country have its own national context. So you will find in the Congo Basin countries, maybe their priorities is forest. So their agenda is defined by what drives their livelihoods. In Southern Africa, for instance, it may be adaptation and also the blue economy. In Eastern Africa, the drought is so pervading, adaptation is critical. So all those things are defined by our membership, and we work across stakeholder groups. We catalyze action, very transformative actions, like what you are seeing here in the Pan-African Parliamentarians Summit on climate policy and equity, driving justice agenda at the core of African Union's policy-making processes, which is represented by the Pan-African Parliament. So we catalyze this kind of collaborations, which really contribute to our bigger agenda in unifying African efforts. And we also serve in the CLIMDEV, Africa Climate for Development in Africa program, which is actually a very, a flagship program of the African Union, hosted at the UN Economic Commission for Africa, but chaired by the African Union, and also bringing together the African Development Bank as the civil society. Is quite enormous space to ensure that we avoid fragmentation of our efforts. And those are the echoes which we have heard here in this meeting, that we need to unify our efforts. There are a lot of very good things in Africa, but if they are done in fragmented manner, we are not going to have impact and change we want at international level. Africa is disadvantaged in many ways, and we believe that the only solace we have is to come up together, so that by the time we are engaging with other regions and continents, the most powerful countries, our power is numbers and our power is our voice. And that's why you see here the clarion call for the Pan-African Parliament is one Africa, one voice. We are really passionate about that as an alliance. And for us to achieve climate justice is to really elevate the voices of those at the front line. And how can it be done without working with the people who represent our communities, parliamentarians? And that is why we are going to foster this collaboration, so that it is going really to work to other platforms and rope in everybody and ensure that we drive the inertia which has been pervading in Africa, and telling them we have to move. And that is the movement we are catalyzing today.
And what are you hoping that a summit like this can achieve?
The summit achievement is a unified African voice. That's what we want to achieve. 2 is a roadmap towards the COP 27, but passing through the Africa Climate Summit, which is coming up in Kenya in September 2023. And that is not an event, but part of the process, part of the journey, which we want really for the ideal environment, ideal economy, ideal situation where everybody will be comfortable, the well-being of the people will be the same, where we are going to say, yes, this is Africa, which we are going to bequeath to the current and future generations. The way the just transition is defined in the North is the way it should be defined in Africa. We need our own definition of just transition. The North definition is based on labor, the labor movement. For them, it is about really how they are going to transition after abandoning the fossil fuel, coal, which employing so many people, and of course the oil. And so the concern of the labor movement is, where are we going to take the people which we employ? And that is how the concept of just transition came about. But it is very different from Africa, where we don't have even anything to transition from in that definition. So we need African definition of just transition. And we broaden it to include really how do we adapt to the impacts of climate change. So in our view, we need really also to look into our very nascent industries. Right now, many countries in Africa are exploring oil. And the question is, are we going to leave those assets on the ground so that now we can be answerable to the global community and the North, which have grown within the same, development pathways, and then they are coming to tell us now, okay, because of climate change, it is polluting, now you need to leave our oil. Our presidents, all of them have got a challenge of ensuring that they reach their development paradigms and deliver on their people. Their people need food, their children need to go to school, they need roads, they need everything. Yet, of course, we acknowledge where we are economically. And so, you cannot come and tell Museveni just like that, okay, you have now to leave the oil in the Albertine region because now we need to address climate change, and then without giving him the answer how he is going to meet his development ambition and his commitment to the people of Uganda. And so that's why we need really a very honest conversation here. Yes, we acknowledge that the transition to low carbon, climate resilient development pathways is inevitable. Even if we don't do it in Africa, there is nothing we are doing. In any case, we produce the oil which we produce not for our consumption. It goes actually exported and then comes back into processed products. And so, if the North today decides that, well, we are not going to mint your oil again, where are we going to have it, to take it? So that's why we are talking with our leaders and telling them that, of course, we need our oil. But the question is, let's have a conversation. These assets are going very soon or in very near future to be stranded assets. So for Museveni, for instance, is developing a 1,443 kilometer pipeline, EACOP, from Albertine region to Tanga in Tanzania. Quite huge investment, and those investments are coming in loans. Is that if tomorrow we say that those who want that oil say, to hell with your oil, we don't want it. So we will be left with these stranded assets. You will be left with this oil, and all, of course, having that burden of the loans he has taken to develop that oil pipeline. And that's what we are saying. Let us look into this very critically and see whether they are going to serve us and our leaders are going to understand. So the conversation here in Africa should be completely different from the North, where the movements, civil society are saying, no to hell with oil. Ours should be a very frank discussion so that we understand here within our African context. And that is why we have this debate here. So the conversation should be really a conversation about potentially stranded assets. Potentially stranded assets, rather than thinking about, oh, let us abandon oil. And ours should actually come incremental. We need really to have what we have to do. Yes, a country like Kenya has it's actually relies its energy is 92% of its energy is driven. It's coming from renewables. That's quite good. So now the question, and the renewables actually can be very good in this transformation which we are looking for. The question is, what about others? And so we agree that it can happen and it is possible. So if we have, and our leaders understand that it makes sense, it becomes very easy for us within our own context, rather than exporting all the concepts. We want now climate smart agriculture. Somebody comes and tells you, let us now slaughter all the cows in Kenya, because now you have heard in Europe that they are culling, because for them it's industrial agriculture. Ours is actually very primitive agriculture. So how do we even, you come and tell a pastoralist whose cows have died anyway because of climate change, and you tell them you have a lot of cows, you have to reduce them to reduce greenhouse gases. It's because you are just transferring that concept to here. So that is not the conversation which we need here. You get me? So these are some of the challenges, because now the problem with us is that we do not have data, we do not have our own context. Let us promote our own scientists, our own researchers, so that they come up with Africa contextualized conversations which fit us, and that is